On your screen, Jay?
Yeah, we're live.
All right. So, welcome everybody to Contractors Corner. I'm Adrian Park, and with me today, founder of Contractor AI and System Whisperer and AI Whisperer and roofer
Ah,
and entrepreneur, Jay
flattery
Carter.
will get you. Flattery will get you everywhere.
Jay Carter. All right. So, Jay, I've got a. Can you give me the ability to share my screen, please? And
Yep.
so, if you remember, last week I had a very, very cool shirt on. Do you remember?
Yes.
It was
I
my
remember you
Taylor.
told us your secret about being a Taylor, a Swiftie. You called
I
it.
am a Swiftie. I am.
I
I
didn't
feel
even know
like,
that was such a thing.
well, and there are levels of Swifties, which we're not going to get
Oh
into
wow.
today. I feel like I'm like, if there's 5 levels, 5 being like the super intense, like have gone to like multiple, like have spent, half their savings and or cashed out investments to go to these shows, multiple shows. I feel like if that's a level 5, or and like follow all the Easter eggs, which is a whole nother thing that I don't think we have time to get into, because she plants all these like little like secret mysteries in her songs and videos and everything. So it's a whole thing, and it works. I mean, I'm into it. I think
Brilliant
if that's a
marketer.
5, what's that?
It's a brilliant marketer.
That would be brilliant. So I think if that's a 5, I feel like I'm like a 2 plus, 2.5.
Okay.
Case in point. So I am wearing these are friendship bracelets that I made myself with my partner, wife, and also with my 2 of our very dear friends that flew in from LA to friggin' Erie, Pennsylvania. So we made our friendship bracelets Saturday afternoon last week, and so we went to the Taylor Swift's her concert movie, right? The Eras Tour movie, which I want to say grossed, like, it cost her 20 million to make
Hmm.
and grossed like 200 million. So
Wow.
pretty good ROI on that. And so I wanted to share some things from TikTok to give all of our, and there's, believe it or not, there's a lot of, like, this definitely ties into contracting. So stay with me. And for contractors who don't know about this, I think you'll find it very interesting. So I'm gonna play a couple of TikToks here. Is that it? I think that's it. Yeah. All right. So tell me if this is the right one. You see my screen, my TikTok screen?
Hmm.
Yeah. Yep. Okay. All right. So this is one of my TikTok accounts. And okay, so this is this is not at the show. This is at the movie. All right. You ready?
Oh wow.
Those are
Are those people like at a movie theater?
yes, at a
Wow.
movie. These are Swifties. All right.
Got Swifties. Okay.
So look, look, and that's okay. Here's one more, just to give you an idea. Not the good seats, right? These are not the good seats, but they're packed with people. And this is just random, like,
Wow. Looks live in there.
singing every word. So this is one of my
concert.
this is one of my daughter's favorite songs, and I have to admit I love it too. And so believe it or not, so my partner and I and my buddy and his partner, we went down. We had good seats up, and like we bought the good seats up top, but then like came down. So here's what I wanted to. What does that have to do with anything, Adrian? Okay, so there's another one that I found. This I think it's actually a podcast, and I think it's called What the Truck. So here are some logistics, Jay. This is the part that I kind of geek out about, and I think you're going to appreciate too. Check this out. It's about, I think it's like a minute and a half, 2 minutes.
Our own Craig Fuller, CEO and founder, he took one for the team. Take a look at this over here. He went down to Taylor Swift on Friday, went over there to report on the logistics of what goes down at a Taylor Swift concert. And he had this to say. He said a Taylor Swift concert is a combination of music, concert, and Broadway play costing over $100 million. Ever wonder what the logistics is for one of the most expensive concert tours in history? Well, turns out the logistics and transport costs alone are more than $30 million for this tour. It's a massive operation. A trucking fleet of at least 90 trucks will stay with the tour the entire.
So it's 30.
Wow.
Yeah. So check this out, Jay. So real quick insertion. So there's 90 trucks, and they all play leapfrog all throughout the whatever continent they're on, right? So right now they're in the US, and so all 90 trucks. So there's 30 at each stadium, and so it's a week up to mobilize, week to demobilize, and they just do leapfrog to every so.
Oh, so it's all their gear, and then I see. Wow, that's
it's three. Yeah, so every stadium has its own, as 30 trucks, and so if she's in Indy this week, LA the next week, and Baton Rouge the next week, which she wouldn't do, but so 30 are in LA, 30 are in Indy, and 30 are in Baton Rouge. And then they just go leapfrog to the next place. Okay.
Wow, that's crazy.
Entire time and cost as much as $500,000 a week. Forbes says she has to pay taxes, her crew, venue rental, tour expenses, possibly redundant trucks, crew, security, musical instruments, and so on and so on. These expenses could range from 20% to 25% of her revenue. There's all those trucks right there. The tour has a large logistical team. I mean, this is a whole big operation to build out and get this coordination. Nothing is left to chance. There are duplicates and backups of everything, including Taylor Swift. Clone Taylor Swift confirmed. They use multiple stages and crews in different cities to keep this tour rolling. One city that has a concert that week, they'll already be building this out in another one. Bigger than a football field itself. Good thing they're putting these at stadiums. The concert schedule, that's a big logistical operation too. It's built to minimize inclement weather, starting here in the southeast, going up into the northeast, then back out west. And Swift herself, she doesn't just ride around in no tour bus. No, she flies around in a $44 million Falcon 900. That jet right there at 550 miles per hour between show. In addition, according to Forbes, at each venue, she'll be likely to sell 30,000 pieces of merchandise at an average price of $80 per item. Whew.
Wow.
Well, the tour is very expensive to
So I think, again, as contractors, and there's one more thing here I wanted to show. Sorry, I forget it. One sec. I forgot about this. I have this. This is a little nugget from, this is me. This is at where we were. This is the concert movie we were at. This, here we go. That's me.
Quiet up and listen down. Nope, scratch that.
So that's a little girl that came up to me, just total stranger, wanting to, because that's what people do, Jay. You exchange friendship bracelets with people. That's why they're called friendship bracelets. And that's Taylor. That's all Taylor Swift. She came up with that.
Reverse it.
You're gonna have to remind me with
Good girl Faith. She's got that style. I've got James Dean Daydream. I've got James Dean Daydream. Okay. So I had probably 6 or 7 little girls younger than my daughters. My daughters are 11 and 13. These were little girls, 6, 7, 8 years old, coming up to me can we, just holding out their little friendship bracelets. So it's that kind of, to me, that's very magical, right? That these strangers are approaching other strangers and, exchanging friendship bracelets, and the phenomenon of people, which we did, we went down it was a concert. And we weren't alone, but the logistics to make that magic happen is the part that is incredible. So here's some fun kind of stats. So she's doing 146 shows, 19 states, 16 countries, 5 continents, 2.2 billion in ticket sales. Like we saw in that video, 90 trucks, 3 stadium sets that are like leapfrogging around whichever continent she's on. Here's a fun little detail that you'll love. They don't optimize the truck routes to avoid traffic. They optimize the truck routes to go through traffic so that people see the trucks.
I do like that. That is
for
brilliant.
Marketing.
I love that.
Isn't it though?
That is so smart. Wow.
Like, so they don't optimize like to bypass, they go through.
Right through it at all the rush hours and stuff. That's brilliant.
Right.
Wow.
So this last summer, I got chill bumps just now. This last summer, she gave each trucker, every contractor a $200,000 each one, not total, not to everyone. She gave each one 200 grand.
Wow.
Bonus. So now so she's in South America right now. She was just in Mexico. To go to South America, and then she's going to continental Europe, and then Australia, and then Asia, and then she comes back next fall. So she's got multiple 747s because she's got to go across the ocean, right? So they're loading all these rigs are then loading 747s, and now it's like an army of 747s then go leapfrog from continent to continent to keep the tour going. Basically over the next year, she'll be on, South America, continental Europe, Australia, Asia, and then she comes back to the US for like a handful of shows.
Wow.
So I mean, again, we could, I'll probably nerd out on this more, and we'll talk about it more because it's, there's a whole nother year for the tour. So lots more time to talk about stuff like that. But I think, here's where I want to take it today. Okay. So there's been a lot, and again, I'll bring more data in some of our future live streams for this, because it's really interesting that like in a recession that's not a recession. I don't even know what to call this period, because it means, again, I know what it was like last year in the masonry business. We've talked a lot about this, you and I, at length, as far as your business and the things you did to like kind of juice things this year, and what it was like last year. And, so as contractors, we've definitely felt pain. Mm-hmm. And yet, like, Taylor Swift launches the most expensive and, also partially because of that, most profitable concert tour ever in history, ever.
Right.
Like I've read where she's actually going to be like, she will double her net worth and she'll enter the billionaire club after this tour is over, which would be shocking if she didn't.
Right.
So, but the timing is it's so fascinating to me, Jay, because at the same time that there was if you probably remember reading about
I've read a lot about the pricing, the financial part of it.
Yeah. But here's the thing, that all went away, and people are, every show, not some of the shows, not most of the shows, every single show is sold out. And it's so fascinating to me that we have, on one hand, you turn on the news and you see there's, these many, jobless claims, housing prices. Housing prices are a little weird. Interest rates are very weird. And so you have all this pain, economic pain. I know I remember last, November, December, I was calling on, our customers to see what kind of work I could bid for the following season and all this. And it was like crickets, man. And the guys I was calling on, they were down 30%. We were down 30 or 40%. And so you have all this. So there's these two worlds going on, where there's in the real world, there's this pain. And then you've got Taylor Swift selling tickets for $500 to $2,000 a seat.
Again, I that doesn't surprise me at all. I mean, I'll share my 2 cents on this. So, one thing that I've realized, and I've been now through two major recessions, and similar activities happened in the last one too. The only people that seem to really feel the recession and take the hard brunt of it, all right, I find it's almost I'm going to say a class of people, right?
Okay.
And I think, we all know this class of people as, and again, I'm not saying it's not real. I'm not saying people aren't feeling hardship. I'm not, bad mouthing it, but it's all about how you look at the problem. Okay. So,
Okay.
let me ask you something. Do you think recession is good or bad for an economy overall?
Well, I actually think it's good for
It's
the
good.
economy. Yeah.
That's right. It is actually good.
I'd
What
sound
we're
like an
seeing-
a-hole saying that.
Right. No, but hold
Some
on.
people would be like,
Let's-
that guy's
let's-
a dick.
Yeah,
But
let's be real
that's-
though. Let's be honest about this. The people that really thrive during good times and then fail during hard times. Well, there's a reason for that, right? Again, you're getting knocked out, and that's what it's meant for. Is that there has to be a recycling to create new opportunity and to expand the market again. So when I hear Taylor Swift, like what I think people might misunderstand, and where I mean it can get confusing a bit, is like, yeah, she's doing this the most money in all time and everything else in the tour, but let's not forget, like her branding and her marketing and her as a talent is phenomenal, and there's no one else that really represents certain groups the way she does, and the way that she speaks in her music to those groups. And hold on, let me just point out the bigger, more important point here. You're a contractor, okay, 40-year-old man, and you've got an 8-year-old girl, and both of you are at this concert equally enjoying the experience.
Right.
So for me, that is the brilliance of the offer, right? That's the brilliance of what she represents and her pure talent. So I'm not surprised by that, because again, in hard times as well, when things are bad, people want to feel up and they're going to seek out. So it's actually smarter to run these kind of things during a recession. In really top times, you might, again, you might see a fluctuation in that audience. So again, here's a lot of things that would lead, but again, it's always very interesting to me how people view bad times. Like, I'll be honest with you. Yeah, this year's been, a little bit slower than other years, whatnot. But, the one thing that hasn't changed, right? It's never stopped. It's never been at a point where there's nothing left. We have to work a little harder. But is that not what's necessary? Like, get back to reality. Like, again, I don't see it the same way. Only the people that still believe that we're in the good times and they're spending money stupidly, really get pounded with these things, right? So, I mean, again, and obviously some other people more dramatically affected by it. But in contracting, again, in Canada here, and I know in the States with our other clients, they're not feeling the recession for a couple of reasons. Feeling it dramatically. First of all, it's a high-end demand thing. We have a labor shortage, right?
Right.
Now, the guys that I hear a lot of, murmuring and stuff around are the guys that were not pricing properly during good times. And now they get to hard times and now they can't survive. They didn't have marketing. They didn't have money to finance their business in a hard time. If you knew that this was coming, and again, the markets it was very clear where we were going just by demand. And like, if you're capable of looking at your business, I could see, where we were headed, months and months ago, right? I was able to prepare. And again, it's all about the moves that you're going to take. Now, when we're coming out of this recession, that's where we're going to see the most opportunity created, right? I know from the last one, we might get a little bit smaller during the recession. Maybe we're still holding our own, and we haven't, downsized or anything like that yet. But I know I'm organized, and I know I have great marketing. I know I have great sales. I know our teams are great. We're going to get through that, through the recession. And guess what's going to be on the other side? Higher demand.
Right.
So again, just think of it as conditioning. Everyone needs to exercise at least a few times in their lives, right? Yeah. What's a recession? It's forcing you to do things. Yeah. It's hard work, right? Let's get back to that. So, again, just kind of to finish off the comment about, how we view, these situations and recessions and You know, what works and what doesn't work. I think it all comes back down to, you know, your position, right? Taylor Swift, prime example. What a great position. Like even the
Right.
fact of her moving her trucks with her logos branded through, like that is just like, again, you know, it's boggling to just think of the opportunity even to be there. Could you imagine that? Like,
Right.
you know what I mean? And a
Yeah.
giant marketing machine rolling. Not, in fact, she's growing through a recession, right?
Right.
She's gonna be a billionaire. And I think every recession has stories like that. You know, I
Yeah.
know contractors that have exploded through recession, right? So again, we can all we it's all about how you're looking at the opportunity.
Well, and that's kind of what I was thinking is, you know, one of the, you know, so she's been building this for 15 years, right?
Mhm.
Because I mean, I saw her on TV for the first time in like 2008. I think that was her first album or second album. And, you know, she's been building her brand for, you know, 15, 16, well, she's 34,
Wow.
almost 20 years actually, since she was 16. So, you know, so for some people who just like, you know, just sort of like woke up and, you know, not today who Taylor Swift is, you know, she's been building this for 20 years, but also, you know, to your point, like, I think that, you know, so one, she already had a huge brand, right? She already has a $1 billion brand. And, you know, I think that, you know, again, kind of paying, I mean, I've been watching the Eras tour thing on TikTok since early this summer. And actually told my partner, like, we've got to go when she comes back to the States, we got to go to one of those shows. But like, I think part of it too, Jay, is that like, I think it's because, you know, like those shots of the movie and like that little video I just was of my wrist of me talking to that little girl. Like, I think too that it's I think it's like medicine, you know, for people like
Absolutely.
for Swifties, you know, and even non-Swifties, because there's
Just
been a
I
gazillion
can't.
TikToks.
I can't.
What?
Swifties. It's just,
Yeah.
it's so like, I mean, you're throwing me off so bad. I mean, I get it,
Hey,
but
I'm just hey. So I think for, you know, for fans, Swifties, and even like non-fans, like there's been so many like TikToks and reels and things like that on social media in the last 6 months of like, you know, parents that weren't into Taylor Swift even today, you know, and they take
right.
their daughter or son or children or whatever, and
Yeah.
now they're Swifties too. So, you know, so I think that it's also, you know, so people get dressed up for the shows, and there's the friendship bracelets, and of course everyone knows the songs and they're easy to sing, and so it's like this confluence of all these things. I think it's like medicine, you know,
Mhm.
because it's
Yeah.
been, you know, it's, you know, probably again like the culmination of or like a lot of things happening all at the same time, where we had a pandemic and then we didn't have concerts, and then, you know, she rolls out this thing, plus she's on this kind of it's also, there's partial part of it's like a revenge tour, which is a whole nother thing that maybe we'll talk about some other time. Swifties know what I'm talking about. So so
Killer.
but I think that's the thing though. I think that's part of it, is it's like medicine, and that's why, you know, some people are making choices about going to a show and overdoing other things, right? So
Right.
if they have to make a choice, they're like, well, we're going to do the Eras tour versus like a vacation or whatever. So, and to your point about recession, I think that you know, I mean, I agree entirely. And in fact, you know, our biggest year in the masonry restoration business was 2020,
Mhm.
was the year that like the brutal pandemic, like, because I had been working on all this stuff and like been going out and like looking for, you know, the people we really wanted to work with, which you and I talk a lot about, dream buyers, dream customers. And I'd found those people, and you know, things were finally clicking, and we just crushed. I mean, we
Mhm.
absolutely crushed. So, you know, I'm a big believer in that. And at the same time, you know, again, to your point, like, you know, but if you boil it all down, so like going back to like, you know, this being medicine for Taylor Swift fans, for Swifties, her tour, and, you know, what you were saying about like your business, I think part of it too, though, like another way of saying medicine or, us delivering for our customers, right, in years that were more difficult is knowing what our customers like, understanding what their pain is,
Well,
right?
there's
And
yeah, so
like
there's a
fixing that and making it better, right?
absolutely. So I'll tell you, and it's a very good point. One of the best ways to get extremely good at marketing extremely quick and to have a great sales process and to is actually to make your customers happy, right? Even
Right.
those difficult ones. Like
Right.
again, we were chatting earlier about the pain of some customers can be and what they represent. And I begrudgingly told you that, hey, you know what? I have over delivered on people I knew didn't have good intent for our business. And
Right.
and I've always been fascinated with how how much you can learn about somebody's behavior and how to predict behavior. And that's all that marketing really is, right? Like again, at the end of the day, we all need customers in our business. We all need leads and opportunities, but I don't think a lot of guys really look past that. I think they don't really understand the the importance of knowing that customer. And how do you get to know that customer? I hear that all the time. Great. Like I've talked to guys that have had contracting businesses for 20 years. I say, okay, great. Who do you sell to? Well, I sell to Bob. Like, no, like,
Yeah.
and I'm trying to get it out of them. Like, and I wonder, like, well, actually, I don't wonder. I know for a fact they have consistent problems collecting from the clients, tons of callbacks.
Right.
They're not customer service related, and they don't look at the client journey and the experience that they provide for that client. And you know how I know that? They have zero repeat business. Right. So these are guys that are just turning and burning and a lot of their headaches day to day are accumulation and repeats of the same mistakes they keep making over
Right.
and over, and they just drag it to the next job. They don't schedule their jobs properly. They don't communicate with their customers, and then they wonder why their customers are pissed off and don't want to pay them. Right? Well, I did the work. No, you don't get that. Like doing a good
Right.
job is not related to the customer's experience. It's a part of it, but it's not the only thing that a customer needs and that you need to understand.
Right.
Understanding, and being able to be intelligent about managing emotions and what to do in situations and passing that on to your team as well is a big part of being a top contractor or top owner, is because all the time on our team calls we talk about situations where even my sales team or whoever they might be interpreting something some way, and I have to sit back and I'm like, okay, well, let's see how this plays out. I know because I've been dragged through those customer service issues. Even when you do land, let's say you land a big job, right? Another one, I'll bring it back to the churches. Prime example. Love it. Like I've done so many churches that I literally should write a book on selling to churches. Okay. But there's always this classic situation that appears. And if you don't know what it is while it's happening, all right, if you haven't been through it or you haven't handled it, all right, it's easy to get sidetracked and to lose focus of the project. So there's a good cop and a bad cop on every single board. Okay. So again, usually during bidding, I explain to you, the good cop comes to you and you're going to get the job and pumps your tires and, gets you to do a whole bunch of extra stuff that you shouldn't have to do and feels like he's really rooting for you, but he's not. All right. And then there's the bad cop. That's the miserable accountant type that's got to cut the check at one point or another. All right. Well, I promise you, if you don't have customer service so good that you make the bad cop, happy, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter because your payments will be delayed. Not only that, but there tends to be a huge, well, not tends, there is a huge community. And really when you do a church, especially one with their own board, the opportunity is not really with the church. It's all the people that seen you do the church and get the business from that. Every time it's 20 to 30 other jobs that come from doing that one job. Right. But who's your gatekeeper? Who's going to be the blocker in the back of the room, just waiting to, and what I find usually it's either the priest is a good cop or the bad cop. Right. So we get caught in this situation. But again, over the course of trial by error, I've learned to identify those people, right, and tailor my service to actually meeting, making them happy. Because like, again, it's not the guy that's going to go along with everything and is happy either way. It's the ones that are actually critical of you. If you can make them happy and you can deliver your product smoothly and where they are actually willing to give you a referral, that's when you're on par, right? And then the last thing that I'm going to say about this is, and I see it, and I want to tell my story, like probably everyone's heard it too many times, but what I see often with contractors, and especially during recession, is they start off and they know how to deliver to their customer. Everyone in general knows what a great job is.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
But the ability to deliver that consistently, just it's all over the place. So I give you this example. All right. And I love using this one because it's so true. Let's say you found a new barber in town. Okay. First time you're going to him. Okay.
Yeah.
He does a bang up job. He shaves your face. He has, a great conversation. Just like you were genuinely entertained, put all his time and attention into you. You didn't have to wait. It was like a 10 out of 10 haircut. Okay.
Yeah.
Next time you go back, he doesn't shave your face this time, but the conversation's good. It's, the haircut was okay. It was, we'll call it in the middle, like maybe a 7 out of 10. Right. Okay.
Right.
So the third time you go back, well, he's busy, you have to wait. The haircut was rushed. He didn't really even chat with you or anything. And like, you weren't overly impressed. Call it a 5. Would you go back the fourth time? No,
I wouldn't. No.
Right. Now, let me give you another scenario. Let's say the first time you went in, all right, he gave you, the shave, did your hair, wasn't really chatty, in and out kind of deal. No problem, right? Wouldn't give him a perfect 10, but it was like a 7.
Solid,
right?
yeah. Mm-hmm.
Next time you did, same thing, 7. Third time you went, 7. Would you go back again?
Yeah, because he's consistent. Yeah.
So do you see what I'm saying about in terms of delivering a service? So service to me is how you show up every single day, not just on on certain days. Like there is no days off for being really good with your customer service. And again, a lot of guys put themselves in this position, and you'll know this for sure. Most contractors that I come across, when they're on the job or when they're involved in the project, and owners especially, they're famous for this. Their customer's happy, everything's great, everything. Now remove them, and it all falls down. What is that an indication of? Right? Systems and people failure and leadership, because you haven't taught your people or put somebody in place that's going to, actively be looking at delivering service to your customer. And again, what's that lead to? Inconsistency, an owner that's tied or feels like they're trapped in their business. Oh, if I leave this will happen. And that really is a lack of training, a lack of effort to, invest in your own company, right? So, I mean, if service, and it should be, no matter what business you have, service should always be, because that's what creates the repeat. People don't invest enough there, or invest enough time, or put enough strategy into delivering a great service consistently, all right? Because they don't feel like it's going to give them a return value, or they underestimate how much return value they get.
Well, I think too, Jay, that so here's what I saw. So when I came into the business, the definition of service was a couple things. One, it was a job done to the customer satisfaction, but that often included work that was not included in the contract.
See, that's not service.
Well, but that's the way they define service.
That's right.
And so
that's bribery.
So I was
bribery.
I was like, I don't know if we can keep doing this, and of course it was like the men were just, it was so demoralizing because they've done the job, and then the owner shows up and walks around with the customer, and the customer's like, what about this? What about this? And then he doesn't charge the customer. Yeah. And so the men are just like, well, we did our job. And so very, very frustrating for them. And, so of course I put a stop to that very quickly, but the other thing that I saw, and this, I think this should be encouraging to, every contractor, is that, the bar is low, and you don't have to be, trying to think of some famous, like, like the Zappos was famous for their customer service, right? The shoes company that sold out to Amazon, where, I mean, they were just like, every time you called, if you ever had to call customer service, it was like you actually wanted to call them again. They were so
Right.
delightful. And there's been books written about the founder. So you don't have to be that as contractors to give, like, tops like service that no one else is giving. In my experience, what I saw was like, okay, so most of the other trades that we were on, because we did mostly commercial work, so most of the trades we were on site with were, they were just a rolling dumpster fire, like,
Right.
I mean, they were a mess. Their foreman, the owners, everything was just, I'm not trying to shit on everybody, but like, it was not like, the bar was very low. And so I thought, if we come in here and we just, like, if we can build a production machine where, I delegate authority to my foreman, to the warehouse foreman, and like, I give them, like, where they can make decisions on things. And obviously certain decisions I still have to make, or the owner had to make, but like, like, I gave them a lot of independence. And this magical thing happened, Jay. Like, they would roll up to job sites with, we had these trailers outfitted, we had brand new trucks with utility bed trucks, and they'd roll up, and like, we were prepared, and we had all the tools, and we had extra tools, and we had all the materials because we had a system, and like, and just running an efficient operation where we did I think a pretty good job communicating to our customers as far as when we'd be mobilizing, and how long that would take generally, and like, just doing what I consider to be the bare minimum, just communicating the basic details. This is how we think this is when we think we're going to be there within, say, 3 or 4 days. And then, when we actually knew, okay, we're going to be there on Tuesday, or we're going to be there on Wednesday. And then just like, just communicating, just general stuff, and just doing what we said we're going to do. And, where I'm at right now in Erie, Pennsylvania, like, this became a market. We didn't do a lot of business here when I came to the business. Now it's the biggest revenue producing, like, market for that business. I mean, it's like, it's 2/3 of the company's business now. So, there's something to your point about, like, I mean, you don't have to be like I don't consider myself to be like an expert in customer service.
Right.
I just decided I'm going to deliver more value than anybody else. Fortunately, the bar was very low on that. And then we crushed. Like, still, you could just go down the street and see the trucks, the company that I left, you see the trucks and trailers everywhere, right? It's not, there's no voodoo, there's no witchcraft, there's no magic. It's just deliver, just produce. So, instead of having a job that looked great, because that was really it, when I came in, and it was a dumpster fire getting to the completion. When I left, it was like the mobilization, like the whole process was, and actually, like, was a good experience for our customers, right? They wanted to do business with us. They enjoyed doing business with us, right? They had a feeling of certainty because they knew we were going to do what we said we're going to do. It's, I mean, I think these are the most basic things we can do as business people or as contractors, whatever, right? This is the bare minimum. And again, if you do I think in our world in contract, if you do the bare minimum and do it well, you're top 5%, top 10%.
So, and again, I can't possibly agree more with what you're saying in terms of the consistency, right? But where does consistency come from? Consistency comes from systems and leadership, right? The leadership part, you'd mentioned earlier about how, you would be giving away freebies and like getting on site. That to me is really poor leadership. And the reason why is because your job as a leader is to look out for the interests of both sides, right? And at the end of the day, I want to really kind of, make this point. Most customers, all right, if we really look at it and we're really, critical of it, doing that over the top thing, doing like, that's great. That's fine. As long as you can maintain it, as long as you can go to the very next job and provide that customer the exact same experience.
Right.
Again, where companies are not consistent and they don't show their leadership is, building a system, first of all, that delivers those core things, communication, contact, having, just the simple, like things that, if you could imagine, and there's another way to kind of put it. Let's say that we owned a nail salon. I don't know, it's a wild one, right?
What do we call it?
I don't know, Jay's Salon.
Jay's
I don't know,
Nails?
Jay's Nails. This is probably a terrible reference. I'm going to try and pull this one out. Every time you walked in there, I just turned my back and watched the TV. Like, would you get any business out of that?
Not a lot.
Right. Okay, great. So, I mean, why would you think you can do the same in a contracting business? So you sell the person the job, and then you send guys there that have zero customer service skills or even problem management skills. And I see this all the time, and especially in roofing. Like, you should see some of the crews that get, that are out there. I would be terrified if these crews were to come at home. In fact, I've mentioned this before, but when it comes to home service, you got to remember, even if once you enter onto most people's property, you are in fact an intruder. In their primal instinct, you are intruding. Forget about being inside someone's home. And I mean, you just think about it. Like, when the repairman comes, is that a comfortable feeling? Right. Okay. So imagine then on top of that, you're being greeted by somebody that is got zero personal skills or ability to, at least have a conversation or lead or explain. And that's really where I see companies get it completely wrong. They put their leadership all on the owner and he hires yes men in behind that, or people that will do what they're told, and, cheap guys, and cheap labor is one of the best examples. If you want someone to care about your customer the way you care about your customer, pay them what they're worth. If you want someone to really shit on your guy and not care, where do you think that shows up? Guys, do you think they're doing it to your face? No, they're going, yeah, boss, no problem. I'll take care of that. They're going to job and they're like, fuck this guy. Like, you know what I mean? Like, like literally, like, if you want, if you want to pay peanuts, you get monkeys. Right. So again, when we think about how to solve the problem, how to, be proactive in it, number one is you should always be looking for people that start with customer service, with people that have the skills. If you're going to put them in front of a customer consistently, and I'm talking especially in home, I mean, commercial, you can get away with a lot more, and it doesn't have to be quite as, you can get away with a good project manager that's going to provide that customer service. But when you're, sending out a technician, or you're doing somebody's roof, you have to have at least one person there that, and all of your team should, that understands what it is that you deliver, and then a backup to that, right? So your in-house staff that are calling the customer, making sure that they've, they're happy with everything, just like they do in restaurants. Like, when you sit down at most restaurants, do they not, the first bite, they come up to you and like, how's it tasting?
How is everything? Yeah, right.
Well, what do you think that is? Why do you think that is systematic in good restaurants? Right? They're not going to let you eat a whole meal and be unsatisfied, are they?
Right. Or find out at the end, right? Comp the whole meal.
Yeah. Well, anyway, so again, when we think about that, actually, restaurants and retail have probably the best examples of what real customer service truly is, right? When it comes to contractors, though, there's zero investment really made, other than companies that are, becoming established. And ironically enough, what I love about this conversation is, the better you get at managing your client, I say managing, leading your client, okay?
Right.
And that in itself is service, good leadership, leading them through the experience, leading them from point A to point B without any incidents and without any problems consistently, all right? The cost for you to acquire more customers like that goes way down. Right. And then I talk to other contractors that are, again, they can't understand. It must be my ads. It must be this. The best example is, we've had a couple of experiences where we go in and help guys, fix their pipelines, and, they're having sales issues, they're having leads issues. First thing we do, what do you think we do? I'll see if you know. What do you think we do?
Look at their customer retention.
So close. We follow up with all of their customers that they've engaged with, or that are past clients, and we ask them what their experience was like.
Yeah.
right? Or we, even in
Yeah.
following up to see if the jobs have done. Do you know how quickly people will tell you that you're a goof and to fuck off when you follow up like that? And you find out right away that these guys have zero idea how to manage their customers' experience. And, you talk to the contractor and you bring it forward to them and it's like a blank stare in their eyes. Well, why could he be mad? We were in and out. And I'm like, you've clearly missed something here. You've clearly missed the big thing, right? And I'm talking especially about home service, electricians, plumbers, like listen up, right? How many of you guys have gone through, done a job, right? And, the customer again is disappointed or upset, scheduled wrong, you made multiple trips back. Like, what do you think? Like, the unfortunate part is like bad news travels much farther and it is more devastating than good news. Okay.
Right.
So at best, you get one referral or one or two clients. Now do a shitty job and the 10 people won't be doing business with you.
Right.
Right. So again, for you guys, you have no, and again, I feel like it's a lot better customer service with, in those areas, like compared to roofing, obviously. Builders are, they're hit or miss. They're either service is phenomenal or it's just non-existent. It's
awful,
wild.
Yeah.
Yeah. And again, we worked with a lot of builders where we went in for a marketing problem and came out just managing their customer service. That was that's what we ended up doing first, because after we fixed the service issue, they didn't have a leads or sales problem anymore.
Well, I was going to say, Jay, I think, again, going back to like my solution for I saw like, okay, the best thing we can do for customer, like to improve our customer service is to just do a good job, right? Do a goddamn good job. Like start there. And, because again, first of all, when I came in the business, it was a dumpster fire and, and we weren't doing a good job. Like again, I'm sure you've seen this. We wouldn't call the customer like on residential jobs. We wouldn't tell them we were coming. We'd drop a 66-foot friggin' lift. And they're like, what the hell's going on?
That's purely, but again, that's
and the office gets a call. Yeah, it's stupid.
Right.
And, and so I saw, okay, so like, if we run if we have a machine, like that's going to it's going to take care of so many other things. And again, that's what happened. And so
you're more profitable. Can you imagine that? Companies that have good customer service are usually the ones that are most profitable.
Well, and and so also it was little things like communicating on, updating and uploading photos, you were the one that turned me on to company cam.
The bane of my existence.
But I mean that, so we had, so there was ongoing communication with the, and again, commercial is a different animal, but it's still people.
Yep.
And they want to be communicated with. And so I always the beginning of the job, I would share the link to all the photos that myself and my men were taking every single day. I was like, look, if you want to know what's going on with the job, you don't get to the job site, just hit this link anytime. And I would actually put it into a doc and make a little homepage for them so they could just go to that note and just click anytime. And and so it made putting change orders through easier, right? Because it wasn't a shock, because I had already sent to them multiple different emails and or texts and or photos, through company cam, saying, hey, this wall's kind of a mess, or this is going on over here, or we found this and we took this apart. So, I don't think of myself as this dynamo customer service guy, but I delivered world-class customer service. And that's why, was making over 70% gross margins. Mm-hmm. Somebody was chirping at me in the Facebook group I'm sure you saw it a couple weeks ago. That's not possible. Yeah, it is. And I did it for 4 years. Mm-hmm. I did it for 4 years. I have what the kids call receipts. I've got all the jobs with all the, yes, it is possible. Now, yes, we were the most expensive in the, in the space and all that. Mm-hmm. But again, I am not like, I don't have like, I'm not a customer service person. That's not my jam. However, I delivered incredible customer service, as did my team, just by seeing that like it's clearly people had, whether it commercial or residential, Jay, like there was real, I'm going to say angst or anxiety, especially residential, working with contractors.
Oh, yeah,
So
big
we
time.
just we just melted all that away just by having a very like just doing the same thing every
Over and over
single
again.
time. It's boring as shit,
It is.
but it works, and
That's
it's magic with customers.
I
That's what
again,
they
I
want.
use, you know, that we use company cam as well. And, you know, the first thing we do is invite them into company cam so they can see all the conversations. They
Right.
can see the whole job happening. Two things happen there. Number one is accountability, right? You know,
Right.
our crews know, like, and the customer
Don't say anything.
But
Yeah,
think
right.
about it. What does the customer want? They want to see their job. Like, they want to know that the job is going correctly. They
Right.
want to know that, you know, we're doing a great job. Well, for example, in roofing, it's pretty dangerous to bring a client up on the roof. They can look at it, but what
Right.
if they're at work? What if, like, think about the anxiety that you've created. All right.
Right.
And it's just, they have to get their roof done, but they also have to work. And we run into this
Right.
situation day in and day out. By us giving that one thing, all right, it blows them away. And then they're like, you guys give great customer service. We actually just gave you a link. We did
Right.
nothing more or less.
Right.
And,
Yeah.
you know, again, we know with our company, I make it very clear, like, who our customer is, how they would expect to be served. Right.
Right.
You know, I'll give you a very good example of us holding true to this. We had a general laborer that was working with us a couple weeks ago. And, you know, he decided that he was going to play this rock music, which is in itself not a problem, but it was the level at which he was playing it. And then decides, like a typical roofer, to take his shirt off in front of, you know, a very high level client.
Right.
On the spot, we had to let him go. And two reasons.
Wow.
On the
Yeah.
spot, like, no matter what, like, we needed them, but it's cultural for us. If we
Yeah.
allowed that, that's telling, first of all, everybody else that works with them, that's an acceptable level of behavior, right? And our customer doesn't even need to tell us that. And, you know, immediately the decision was like lightning fast, no matter how much I need them. And I've done it with, you know, full red roofers when we desperately needed guys, because you have to be on guard for that. What your customers see in your men and is a representation of your business. And the worst thing
Yeah.
to do is give a great sales process, you know, get everything to that point where, you know, it's delivering, and have something like that or somebody on your crew. And I don't think a lot of guys really, you know, for guys that are customer service minded, I think, you know, in general, contractors are the worst. They don't pick up their phones, they don't return
Yeah.
calls, they don't
Right.
no messages. Like, that's like, to me, that's the most basic. Like, just communicate with your customer. I take, you know, when I'm dealing with customers, I'll respond to them immediately, as fast as I possibly can, because I know in the shoes myself how it would feel if somebody didn't. Right. So again, I always look at the level of service that a company provides. And again, like I said, it generally comes down to two things, right? And if I'm standing back and really, you know, calling it as generically as I can, the two things that most of these companies have, that nobody else or another company is lacking, is, you know, the leadership to, you know, make that the priority, right? By, you know, leading your team and showing them the examples and making it clear, and, you know, company values and all that. That's strong leadership. Okay. And the other thing that I'm seeing that consistently across the board is the systemization of that process. Okay. So when I'm saying systemization, you know, again, this can be so simple. All right. It can be a checklist before a job, like eliminate all the little problems that you are running into on your crew even. And guess what?
Right.
Like, no matter what, by investing in customer service, and look at it this way. If your customer sees you leave your job site 3 times to go get tools, how confident are they in that you came prepared? Right? If they see you going back and forth from the, like, you know what I mean? You're raising their anxiety levels, right?
Yeah.
Now, also on top of that, what else are you doing? Flushing your profits down the toilet.
Oh, yeah,
but I got the job done. Doesn't matter. It could be the most
Right.
beautiful job in the world. It's the experience you've delivered to the customer. If you made them feel like maybe you weren't prepared or weren't all together, and I mean, again, I'm using that as a an example, but again, here's so many other little operational things that could be going on your crews and in your workforce. And if you corrected those, automatically your customer service level goes up, right? Imagine that my profitability goes up and customers will be happier with me just because I'm paying attention to those things. And again, we've talked a lot about scheduling and like the importance of, communicating that schedule to the customer. Because you remember, and this is primarily for residential, but commercial is 100% that. What am I talking about? But like, think of all of the stress and anxiety and everything else that goes into having somebody come and do work on a home or a business or be even a commercial project. You are putting somebody through a change management process. So immediately there's going to be a range of emotions, no matter how much of a rock you are. If you've scheduled, we all have that, that moment where we're like excited that we're getting the work done, but also very threatened that the work's getting done. Right. And the companies, again, that I see, coming to me with sales and marketing issues, coming to me with operational problems, coming to me with, other symptoms of this first thing, right? And I can't. A lot of my job is looking at their watch and telling them what time it is. Like, hold on, like you've taken 13 customer complaints on 12 jobs. I didn't even know that's possible, right? I didn't even know somebody could complain twice, but I've seen it. And I'm like, guys, like you don't have a leads and sales marketing problem. You're going to have no business if you keep up, delivering it. And it comes down to silly things that just, and you bring it up like, hey, you know what? Like if you implemented when a job got scheduled, just send it a text. That's it. You don't even need to call them. Just send them a text. Let them know that the job will be starting on this date. Right. You want to go even more elaborate than that? You can send out mailers. You can do all types of things. But really, the start date is like the first step. And if a project's going to go wrong, if you can't manage that, what is the customer thinking? So those guys that love to just show up and just start working, like I've seen that. And to be honest with you, I may have done it a couple of times here and there.
Oh yeah, I think we've all done it. Right? Yeah, you get busy and you just no one tells the customer.
Right.
Yeah.
So the other thing that, and again, maybe I'll give a higher level tip for guys that are more established and that have really, put some time into getting their customer service, the basic level one, like tell them the schedule, don't show up with, drunks and crackheads, like do a good job, like very basic things we're talking about here, gentlemen. But like, if you really want your business to explode and for you to, experience, 7 and 8 figure years, okay, if we really want to get to that point, the first thing that you're going to do is hire someone entirely responsible for the customer's experience. We call them CSMs. Okay. A CSM, people balk at me when I say it and they're like, I'm not hiring someone like that and blah, blah, blah. I'm like, okay, but you in the same breath will tell me you'll spend $100,000 on leads and lead generation. And I'm like, here's a problem here. So I know because I've measured it and we've seen it in multiple businesses in multiple ways. By bringing in a customer service manager, we did double the lead intake. We tripled it in some cases, and no more expensive upfront lead. Why is that? Why was that so important? And literally, I've had people like blown away. I've turned their business around in like a month by installing this one role. Like when you get up over $1 million, $1.5 million, like that's where the wheels start to pop off and you can't be everywhere, right? But if you had somebody that was entirely responsible for that, again, what's going to happen every time someone has a great experience with your company, every time the crew showed up and organized, every time, like all of these things can be assigned to a good customer service manager or coordinator or whatever you want to title them, right? But their sole purpose is to make sure that the client has a good experience, a Sherpa, okay? And if you can instill somebody like that, the rest of the company starts to follow, right? All of a sudden, now you're known for good service. And guess what? I'll tell you, in the high-end luxury markets and in the ones that are the only ones not affected by a recession, on paper right now, are those high-end customers that expect that level of service. That's the difference between you getting the job and not getting the job. right?
Right.
Again, if you're known for your service, people will spend a exponential premium on it, right? And often
Yeah.
when we really look at companies comparable apples to apples, okay, and I even see it the other way. I know companies that do not that great a quality of work even. All right. But their
Right.
job sites are clean. Their
Right.
customer was,
Yep.
informed. If there was a problem, somebody was on top of it. Like,
Yep.
and they're getting the 5-star reviews, right? Using very average people. All right.
Right.
Then we have a totally talented, team that's got all the skills, all the assets. The customer, they're just arrogant and
They're a
rude to the customer,
mess. Yeah.
and they can't find work. Imagine
Right.
that, right? So the connection between the two is obvious when you get to a certain point. And for guys that are out there, again, like I said, a customer service manager can have a lot of utility inside of a business, especially if you're forward facing. Like, think of the opportunity. You can put them into safety officers. You can do all types of things that will make that role ROI. And traditionally, what I've seen, okay, and the last time we had a consulting gig where we were actually there to fix leads, and I'm thinking of this project specifically where we implemented a CSM. They were paying $2,200 a month for our CSM to come in, and by the way,
Okay.
their leads, and we tripled their lead flow. We
Wow.
reduced all of their callbacks. Safety improved. Like we seen all the numbers go up across the board by that one role, and we calculated it at an 8-to-1 return. Right. So imagine
Jeez.
that. So this role is
Wow.
making me like just on the bottom level, like forget the, the accumulating factor, but like,
Yeah.
for $2,000, I'm getting back 10 every time. So that's a
Yeah.
no-brainer, right?
Right.
Can't get
Yeah,
that off of leads or off of ads. That's for sure. Right.
No. Yeah, I think, again, maybe just to kind of final thoughts here, one of the things that, just again, kind of going back to your comment about leadership. I mean, I don't think a lot of people, business people, contractors, think about leadership and customer service being, synonymous. They don't think of those two things together. However, to your point though, I remember one of my men in particular who was awesome, great leader, knew his stuff, he was great. And he was, rough around the edges a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And he was great with customers. Customers loved him. And I remember being surprised.
It's the confidence.
But it was that, I mean, so
and
he knew his stuff,
Yep.
but it was but because I empowered him, and it was look, you can solve stuff, I don't have to be, and I want to know about stuff, but I'd also aligned the money because he was in a position to earn, I don't know, another 15 to 20% of his total comp. So total pay. So anyway, I remember being surprised, and he wasn't the only one. Really all of the senior men became customer service leads where, whether they were the warm, friendly type or not, they were, I had this army of people that were, I never even thought of it like that were basically helping me with the customer service of the company. And again, to your point, I didn't even, I'm just being honest here. A lot of things I had mapped out and planned out and thought, okay, if we do X, we get Y. That was just like a gift. I didn't know that was going to happen. Mm-hmm. That was one of the gifts of having, building what I thought of as a production machine, was that everyone became and basically goodwill ambassadors, regardless of their position, whether it was a new laborer or a super senior foreman or myself or someone in the office. Everybody was an ambassador. And that was, and I mean, yeah, we were coaching and training on some of that stuff, but some of it just kind of became from becoming a production machine. So I think that, and to your point, we had somebody who was kind of running point on that stuff, and it does make a difference, in the customer's experience. Yep, so absolutely. It's not, again, you don't have to, you know, if you're a bigger contractor doing, you know, 5
Not
to
even bigger. Like
25.
again, you can like. I would say the easiest time to implement quality customer service is day one. But the
Oh,
thing about it,
what I was going to say, Jay, is that you don't, I mean, even if you're a bigger contractor doing 5 to 25 million, you don't have to spend a bunch of money on this. It's like,
no,
I mean, it's not you don't have to like allocate 100 or 200 or
no,
300. It's not that
absolutely true.
expensive.
Absolutely.
You know, it's like, it's literally, it's inexpensive.
It's a profit
And
maximizer.
And I was going to say, and it's like one of those things that like, you know, like, I mean, I got really lucky on some of the stocks that I own, right? I bought Facebook and I made a killing on that this year, owned Amazon, Google, all these things have all done really well. I mean, if I would have known that those three were going to be the ones that crushed, I wouldn't have bought like 3 other things, you know,
Right.
I would have tripled down on those and I would have made even more money. But like, you don't often know with the stock market. And so you don't usually have that kind of insight or foresight. You don't know ahead of time that something's going to just crush like that. Like, again, if I had known Facebook was going to do what it had done, I would have bought like 3 times as much Facebook.
For sure.
But on this, you kind of do know, right?
You absolutely do.
You kind of know, like, okay, I can install this. I can like hire this. It's easy to do. Hire this position and like get a substantial like increase in both like how many jobs I'm booking, you know, how many contracts, and also like what we're making.
And the day-to-day headaches. That's the other thing, right? Like the stress of having to deal with a pissed off client consistently. And I know some contractors that like that's the norm, right? Like every job there is no smooth jobs. And I mean, you know them too. You were coming from one, right?
I was one.
Where they just don't have an answer for why a customer is upset. And their instinct is to say, well, it's just a bad customer. Well, no, you're just a bad contractor.
Right.
Let's be real. And again, it's getting away from the idea that it's all about the quality. If I just do quality, then my customer is going to love me. And that's not true. That couldn't be further from the truth. And again, I'll give you another like fantastic example. Let's take a roof, for example. Okay. That's because of what I know. All right.
Yeah.
I could put the finest roof that will never leak for 100 years and do it with the fastest men and get it all done in a day.
Right.
I leave a nail on the driveway, one nail. What do you think they're going to remember?
Yeah, the nail.
Right? What do you think they're going to remember that nobody came around and checked for those things? What do you think they're going to remember when, we just threw an invoice at them, didn't give their warranty, like didn't finish the transaction, because that's a stress point, right? What are they going to think about when we told them we'd be there Monday? No one called them to say they wouldn't be there Monday. And then we showed up Wednesday or Thursday. Like, again, like just put it into perspective here, right? Like, that we broke a window and blamed it on someone else instead of getting the window fixed. Like, you know what I mean? Like there's all these little touches. And I think guys completely get this wrong, and they continuously make the same mistake over and over and over again. And guess what happens? It gets harder and harder to find leads and work and get those guys that, another good example is the contractor that keeps the terrible, drunk on his crew that makes the company look bad and makes because I need the guy. Right. They're showing up there with somebody who does not care about or respect the person's property, right? Doesn't take care. Like, I mean, even hygiene, that's another thing that can come up, right? Now I know better than like really, go too close on this topic, but there is a no-go zone for us in how you present yourself as a human being. If you're rolling out of bed and you've got ripped shirts and like that is not what our clients would look at. Now, I mean, I'm a roofer, and think about how I think about that. If you guys got uniformed guys, like there's got to be that understanding of the optics that you're providing, because like I said, I know roofing companies that I've worked with. Be honest with you, their quality's shit. Like they have 100 men, right? There's no way they can control. Now they do have quality control manager, right? But they have one really good customer service person that is, I would say, 10 10x the value of their best salesperson
Right.
because she's actually able to solve, keep a customer happy, and get them to recommend them even when stuff goes south, right?
Yeah.
Even when there's been a big
Yeah.
problem. But again, that's a whole strategy. Now, you don't want to get yourself into that situation, but it's going to happen. How you deal with it, that's really where you're being tested, right? Like shit's going to happen, but things do happen no matter what. It's unavoidable, right? In any project, in the nature of the business, but it's how you handle it. And then eventually it's how you systemize handling it. That's going to be, how quickly you grow.
Yeah. So to kind of like close us out for this week's live stream, Jay, we were both surprised. You had somebody reach out to you this week, and they had been watching our live streams, which thank you, we appreciate that.
Yes.
We put a lot of time and energy into this, Jay and I. So we always appreciate every person that is watching and hanging out with us, whether it's on Friday live or on the replays. But our surprise was that they were like, yeah, we didn't even know you did this. so we've heard that, and so maybe we can, because I think our where we probably missed it is maybe like, I mean, even though you and I are both not shy about what we're offering here, at the same time, like, we don't want to beat the daylights out of people that are watching with our offer.
Right.
So there's, we're trying to find the happy medium there. So, so that people know, maybe you can just, do a 15 to 30 second commercial on what our offer is, because we've been busting our ass on this thing, and
absolutely,
and it's something that's bringing a lot of value to our existing clients. So maybe you can like share what we're working on. So anybody that's watching this on LinkedIn, Facebook, on my channels, or whatever, can reach out to us if they want.
In the easiest way I can say it, it is a consulting offer. So we will come in and we will fix specific problems that we scope out with you in your business, and we will help you manage the change so that going through the experience is positive and that you get the exact result you were expecting. So the best way I can kind of, explain it to everybody is everyone has that project or that thing that they needed to get done in their business, CRMs, better customer service, other things that they've really struggled with. Maybe you've had a coach, and really that's fallen down for you in the implementation phase. We come in with a team, we scope out your project, we really analyze your business, make sure that it's a good fit and that it's going to ROI, which is return on your investment. And then we simply come in with a team and we implement the thing and help your team cope with that change, onboard, train. So again, for guys that are listening in here and that have had these, lingering issues or problems, they need SOPs, they need workbooks, they need all types of things. We do the hard, boring work for you, and we basically deliver you the result, so that you can stay focused on what you're good at.
So, like, what's the, like, for, again, someone watching that's like, okay, that sounds interesting. Mm-hmm. What's a easy example of that? I mean, like an easy implementation, like where are we getting the quick wins for people?
Oh, so I mean, right off the bat, CRMs and the customer journey, sales process. We come in, we write an entire playbook for you, play by play. We figure out what, where your marketing gaps are, where your marketing issues are. We correct those customer service, and then we put it into a system that is mostly automated. And, if you need a staff or someone hired, we will hire them, train them, and put them, in with it. So a lot of our offers come equipped with, people that will run the system as well. So for guys that are trying to grow and scale, but don't, want the burden of a huge team, again, we can actually install the team member for you with the system. And, again, we like to be really flexible with this. We love to solve big problems. But the quickest wins that we get, we go straight for the biggest ROIs, the simple systems in your business that, you may even have, but they're just not working.
So, one of the things that was a challenge for me, which you and I were working on before I left, was, like where we were getting leads from, mm-hmm. and then what happened from the time those leads came in via email, phone call, whatever. Mm-hmm. And then, because there's filtering the leads so that, we weren't looking at garbage jobs, frankly. And then there was everything that happened after that. And, you know, one of the things I was concerned about that I feel like this answers or solves was like burdening, you know, my people with more stuff, you know, because I was
Right.
already giving them all
That's-
these, like, you know
you
what I
got
mean?
it.
So I think, so my biggest fear, if you remember, was like, I was like, well, I can't, you know, these folks are already killing themselves for me, right? They're working every, you know, every hour and then some that they're getting paid for. How can I put more on them? And so our solution is we're not putting, you know, we're not dumping more stuff on your team.
No.
We're actually going to bring in somebody that is work virtually, right? Can work
Yep.
from anywhere and just plug them in, and we train them, right?
Yeah, and we keep them accountable. We, you know, again, and these problems that have been lingering in your business, you know, that you know are there. And again, a classic example, just this week, we're helping a company. I'm actually pretty proud of this. In 1 week, we found him $72,000 worth of revenue, new revenue, business
Awesome.
that he had already quoted. But and again, we had him on our live on Thursday, $72,000, okay, in less than a week. Well, we already ROI'd. So we go in and again, now moving forward, he's recognized that just having the words, thinking you have a CRM, it may not be optimized to work with your team. You know, again, in his example that you know, when we corrected his team had a CRM, but they were using spreadsheets and tracking their clients. And, you know, when we uncovered all this stuff, you know, just the relief and the, you know, the fact that, you know, we're not just coaching them or telling them, because everybody's had that. And I mean, you know, one of the things that I remember back with coaching was, you know, you can only coach somebody so far until, you know, they hit a technical problem, and all of a sudden you're not available enough to, you know, get it. And it's easy to say, hey, here's the strategy. You know what, you need this or you need that, and then walk away from it. You know, it may have been great advice, but how does the actual thing get done? Right. And you're forcing somebody to use skills they literally don't have. So like building a CRM is a very technical, difficult.
It's hard.
Systemization.
It's hard if
it's
hard if you're good at that stuff.
That's right. Like I'm a nerd for it. And it's
I am too. And it's freaking hard. Yes.
Right. So again, I think a lot of companies have these hurdles, and, you know, other things like getting their teams to buy in. And like, you know, we have a ton of leadership and a ton of other, you know, services, and, you know, we're sharing them with you guys of how to optimize the business and how to solve specific problems without all the extra time, without, you know, having to kill yourself, you know, figuring out or learning new skills. We want you to stay doing what you're good at. We want to limit the impact on your team, right? And if we can, we want to, you know, insert somebody in your business that's going to continue to ROI after, you know, the you know, the system or the process is implemented, so it sticks. That's the big thing. It doesn't matter what I do. I could build the biggest, baddest thing. If it doesn't stick, I failed you, and I failed at my job.
Well, and again, I think, Jay, you know, that was the thing that I was originally drawn to you, like a couple of years ago, is the execution part. And so I feel like, but then the challenge was getting, you know, like I was on board, but getting my people to do it. And, you know, and so, I mean, you know, had we had this right back then, it would have made things like, I mean, we did a lot of good things together, but it would have made it, I mean, we would have had even more success.
It's just way
this is kind of that linchpin, right?
Right.
Like this solve, which again is like basically a virtual employee, virtual assistant kind of coming in. We train them and they just plug in and they know what to do and they know where to connect the dots and so on.
If you need it. Yeah. If that's the prescription that we prescribe. And again, you get like a full scope and
yeah, certainly somebody that is a doer, right? Like, and they can do this and they can certainly implement it or whatever. However, if that's the kind of friction point, or if that's not, you know, because again, a lot of guys in my experience and in your experience, it's like, man, I can't think about that. Right. So if you can't think about it, that's okay. We've got a really good solution for that. Right.
Yep. Absolutely.
So if that sounds interesting, you know, so we weren't hiding the offer before. We just, again, we don't want to beat people over the head with it. So we're really excited about that. And we think that, you know, I mean, we've already got a couple people signed up just this week for that offer.
4.
So we're implementing it 4. Wow. So So it's something that seems to be like, other people seem to be connecting with that, and it's solving a problem for them. If that could solve a problem for you, comment on this wherever you're seeing it, and whether it's my channels or the Contractor AI channels, we'll connect with you. So as always, we've been a little long this week, but we appreciate everybody that stays with us or is here for a part of this, whether it's live or on the replays. It's a privilege to talk about these things with you, for you. So Jay and I are live again every Friday, 3:00 Eastern time. Jay has been going live Thursdays at 3, like going in and actually doing the work, which is a lot of pressure, and hats off, doing it live, showing you how we can find revenue buried in your leads and your quotes, which I love. That's one of my favorite things. And then I go live every Monday at noon Eastern time, sharing like literally every play from my playbook on how I turned around a struggling masonry restoration business and took it to be a dominant player here in Western PA. So thanks for hanging out with us, and we'll see you again next